Now, folks, let's talk about the continuing mess in Tarrant County, where Crystal Mason continues to be terrorized by the Tarrant County DA. Now, remember, it was 8 years ago when Crystal Mason voted in the 2016 election. She thought she could vote. She filled out a provisional ballot. The ballot was never counted, but she was prosecuted. As a result of being indicted, because she was already on parole from a federal tax fraud conviction, she was sent back to federal prison to complete that term. 2 years was added to her sentence. They've been fighting it. They won in the Court of Appeals. Now, Tarrant County DA Phil Sorrells stood before the County Commissioner's Court this week to defend why he wants to appeal that decision and why he continues to terrorize Crystal Mason.
The Court of Criminal Appeals told the Fort Worth Court to perform a sufficiency analysis. Specifically, they told the court to determine if the state proved with sufficient evidence not only that Mason knew that she was on supervised release when she voted, but also that she actually realized that those circumstances, that the fact that she was on felony supervised release, that those circumstances rendered her ineligible to vote. A sufficiency review is not uncommon. The standard is well settled. It's something that courts do regularly. The appeals court in a sufficiency review, they are to look at the evidence, so they look back at the evidence, they're not in the light most favorable to the verdict. So they look back and say, okay, we know what the verdict was. The verdict was that she was found guilty. Now, is there sufficient evidence to support that verdict? But that's not what happened in the Second Court of Appeals this past March. Instead, the court reweighed the evidence. They acted like a fact finder. I like that piece of evidence. I'll take that. I don't believe that piece of evidence. I'm going to push it away. That's not what you do in a sufficiency standard. They credited and discredited evidence just like they were the fact finder. This is not a fact question. We are not here to talk about facts. This is a legal question, a matter of legal principle, sufficiency of the evidence. Their decision was a deviation from well-settled law on sufficiency reviews. So why is the state, why am I appealing this case? Well, I'll give you 3 reasons. Number 1, I want would-be illegal voters to know that we're watching and that we'll follow the law and we will prosecute illegal voting. I want those that vote legally to know that we're watching and that we're working to make sure that your vote's not going to be diluted by any illegal votes. And finally, this is a deviation from the well-settled law regarding sufficiency reviews, and it needs to be corrected. This case, if it's left standing, impacts every sufficiency case in the state of Texas, not just voting cases, murder cases, theft cases, capital murder cases. Any kind of case, this case, it's a published opinion, can be cited for a proposition that this is how you review sufficiency cases, and it's wrong. So we need the Court of Criminal Appeals to come in and tell the Second Court of Appeals that you need to do the sufficiency standard evaluation again. Happy to answer any of your questions.
Questions for Mr. Sorrells?
I have a bunch, but I'll wait until after public comment. But let me ask you this. How she did not vote. She submitted a provisional ballot.
One moment. I keep hearing chatter in the audience. I'm going to start watching and start removing people. That's not what we're going to do. So sit there, let the process play out. You'll have your opportunity to speak. Listen to what others are saying. Do not speak out or you'll be removed from the chambers. Go ahead.
So she didn't vote.
She did vote. She cast a provisional ballot. It's the same with voting.
That did not count. Where is the ballot, sir? What happened to the ballot?
I can't tell you what happened to the ballot.
What do they do with provisional ballots?
I'm not the elections administrator, so I don't know where the ballot is, no.
Chandler, do you know what they do with provisional ballots?
No, right now, ma'am, I don't know. My apologies.
It didn't count. Is that correct?
You're wrong. The Court of Criminal Appeals dispelled that quickly and said this was a vote. The question was not did she vote, it was did she actually realize that while she was on felony supervised supervision that she wasn't allowed to vote.
Okay, so the ballot was never cured, so it wasn't counted, so she didn't vote. How else
She did vote.
How else does the Court of Appeals weigh the sufficiency of the evidence without weighing the evidence?
They look at the evidence most favorable to the verdict. So they're not trying to figure out did they get it right. They look to see if there's evidence. So you find your conclusion in an argument. They have a conclusion, guilty of the offense. So now they're going to look and see, is there evidence that supports that? Now, a normal trier of fact would say, look, this person testified and I don't believe anything they had to say. Or this person testified, I believe everything they had to say. Or you have another witness that says, I believe some of it, but part of that doesn't ring true. That's what a trier of fact does. That's not what an appellate court does. An appellate court looks at the law, not the facts.
It is sad to say that it is still true today, but Brother Malcolm X said this: the most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. You see, historically, we have been your mammies, your maids, and your mistresses. But today, we are your doctors, your lawyers, your judges, your teachers, your professors, your county commissioners, your vice president, and your Supreme Court justice. Indeed, we are the backbone of this democracy we call the United States. So instead of wasting our taxpayer dollars, as DA Sorrells just went after, going after a black woman who's been acquitted of an 8-year ordeal, why don't you go after the candidate who was declared ineligible to run for Mansfield ISD Trustee Place 2, who did vote in the March Republican primary, despite being ineligible at the time?
I believe Crystal Mason did not know she was not eligible to vote when she cast a provisional ballot. She only voted a provisional ballot, and it was never cured, and her vote was never counted. She served time in jail, and her case went through the courts and appeal process. I believe the only reason DA Sorrells wants to reverse her appeal is because he wants to engage in voter suppression. He just wants to instill fear in voters.
I'm adding my voice of disbelief to the action of the district attorney in seeking to restore Crystal Mason's conviction. As the appellate court noted, in reversing the conviction, the state's evidence was not sufficient to, quote, prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she actually knew that being on supervised release after having served her entire federal sentence of incarceration made her ineligible to vote by casting a provisional ballot when she did so. Yes, voting is a cornerstone of our democracy, and that is exactly why the prosecution against her never should have happened.
Our Tarrant County DA's office stated, and I quote, "Voting is a cornerstone of our democracy. This office will protect the ballot box from fraudsters who think our laws don't apply to them." Now, when your office was given information about Angel Hidalgo, a disgraced, ineligible Mansfield ISD school board candidate for place 2, you chose not to act. Even our local school board, which does lack integrity, chose to at least find Mr. Hidalgo ineligible, and he even if he received the most votes, he would not have been able to actually take a position on our local school board.
The public is not on your side on this issue, DA Sorrells, which is concurrent with the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals ruling which acquitted her of any wrongdoing. Why is our DA now appealing this acquittal? Maybe it's because the so-called Voter Integrity Task Force, which has prosecuted 0 offenses, grasping at straws to justify the expense of our county taxpayer dollars. Maybe it's because we like to target minority women of color to intimidate them not to show up at the polls. Maybe it's an homage to Trump's call to Tarrant County when he lost the vote to Biden in 2020 to look into voter fraud, in line with his lies that the election was stolen. I am tired of our county officials wasting tax money while targeting people of color as their expression of allegiance to Trump. I am tired of Black Tarrant County citizens being disenfranchised, dehumanized, and incarcerated based on illegitimate and incompetent charges. The money wasted on useless voter suppression tactics would be better spent on a public defender's office specializing in mental health.
Right now is Tarrant County Commissioner Alisa Simmons. Commissioner Simmons, glad to have you here. It is abundantly clear that this is a massive waste of taxpayer dollars. Have you, Commissioner Brooks, or any other commissioner, asked this DA to tabulate how many hours have been committed by the Tarrant County DA's office to this single case?
Not yet. What I did Tuesday was ask how much of our taxpayer dollars will be committed to this frivolous, wasteful pursuit to overturn the appeal. If you have time to listen to that entire exchange, he said something about committing one attorney to this case. He wouldn't give a number, and made some asinine comment again about saying, well, he's going to commit one attorney to this appeal. Just ridiculous.
But was it nonsensical? This was 2016. We've had the 2018 midterms, the 2020 presidential election, the 2022 midterm election. Now we're moving towards the 2024 presidential election, and they are still doing. It's like, dude, it's one person.
One person. Look, this DA.
And as you said, the ballot never counted. It was a provisional ballot. It was never processed. It never went through.
This guy is trying to make a name for himself. And he sees this as an easy way to do it, I guess. They ought to be embarrassed. Look, this guy, Judge Sorrells, the sheriff, the MAGA sheriff, Bill Wayborn, and our county judge, who you just watched be rude to the audience because they moaned or sighed or something like that. These three guys came up with this election integrity unit. So we now have this election integrity unit that we have to pay staff to staff it, and they're supposed to go out and identify cases of alleged voter fraud. This county has had probably 3 to 5 voter fraud cases in the past decade. There is no there's no proliferation of voter fraud in Tarrant County. So I guess they're going to keep going after poor Ms. Mason to try and prove something. It doesn't make sense. The public commenters said it much better than I can. You heard them. This is a waste of taxpayer dollars. Where's the sufficiency? Just all of it. It's ridiculous. And we had probably a historic turnout Tuesday for a number of reasons. And because I anticipated the turnout, I agendized this topic, and you saw this DA's poor performance in answering questions from a layperson.
Right.
I'm not an attorney. This is embarrassing, and I will continue to call this crap out until I can't do it anymore.
Are you planning on keeping this on the agenda every month to force this DA to come before the court and explain himself? Because his money comes from the taxpayers.
Yeah, I like that idea. I've done it before on a different issue. I just agendized it week after week after week after week.
So y'all meet weekly or monthly?
No, we meet the first and third Tuesday of each month.
I would haul his ass down, have him have to stand there every week and defend this, and hopefully people keep coming out and protesting because it is shameful. And what are your other colleagues saying? I mean, are any of them ticked off by this constant? Pull the commissioners up. Go ahead and show the graphic. Are any of them standing with you saying, DA, this is idiotic. What are you doing?
No. Now, in his defense, Commissioner Brooks was out yesterday. I think he was at a conference or something. But the other three sat there dead silent. The one in the center is the ringleader of all of this. You know, we have a MAGA court. You see the Precinct 1, Precinct 2 were the Democrats, and then the other three are MAGA. And so we frequently get outvoted on everything. Whatever we put on the agenda for our constituents, our communities, our nonprofits, get voted down by these three. So, you know, people have to vote.
Right.
But we will keep, you know, the two of us won't be able to do anything about Miss Mason except for call it out, get the public commenters down there to speak to it. We had a record amount of public commenters yesterday and Tuesday, and many of them spoke to this issue. This is ridiculous. When I tell you how overcrowded our jail is,
right,
something done needs to be focusing on reducing the backlog of viable cases that he has. But no, he wants to play games with this woman's life and with our taxpayer dollars. Y'all, it is crazy here. Tarrant County is the last large urban red county in this country. And they are not wanting to let loose because they would like to play games like this with this woman's life. This is crazy.
I'm going to put in my panel right now. Reese Colbert hosts Sirius XM radio show out of D.C. Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University out of D.C. Lauren Victoria Burt, writing for Black Press USA out of Arlington, Virginia. Lauren, you first.
I'm wondering why have you heard from anyone from like a national organization that does voting? I mean, obviously black voters are always told, of course, to vote harder and all that. I'm wondering if you've heard from the national NAACP or even the White House on this, because it seems to me that this person, Phil Sorrells, who's obviously obsessed with Crystal Mason, he should get his wish with regard to being famous. He should be made famous by every voting rights organization, anybody who cares about voting rights in the United States. And he should be made famous for all the wrong reasons. Have you heard from anybody on sort of a national level?
I have not. No, ma'am, not since he announced this back on April 25th. Now, Crystal has some great local attorneys, and she has ACLU of Texas attorneys as well. And so I consulted them just in the past week about this case and how I should approach my line of questioning. But this guy was so abrasive and, you know, and dismissive, and I've been here since 10 a.m., so I'm not going to stay here any longer. You ask your questions now. I have work to do. So, but no, I've not heard from the national organizations, but I need to, and I need some help. And I appreciate this forum, and I know you've had Attorney Kim Coles on before. I appreciate this forum to hopefully elevate this and get this out there. I need help. There are only two of us, and you got to count to 10.
Absolutely. Reese.
Commissioner, thank you for being here. Can you explain exactly the process? This hearing, I wasn't really clear if this was a hearing to grant his appeal or this is a hearing to just explain his appeal. Can you walk us through where exactly this is in the process of this DA trying to recharge Crystal Mason?
Well, she was acquitted or got the ruling. I think it was March 28th.
Yeah, it was March 26th. You had the Court of Appeals that threw out her conviction. And so the Tarrant County DA is seeking to appeal that ruling of the Court of Appeals.
Okay, and so what you just witnessed, commissioners meet the first and third Tuesday of the month, and so this was our first meeting since the DA announced he was going to appeal that ruling. Okay, and so I agendized this to get a briefing from him. He needs to come to Commissioner's Court and tell us why he has chosen to appeal this, what it's going to cost, so on and so forth. And so he was there to take our questions. And so when we have an item that is agendized, the public can sign up to speak to it. And so they also asked questions and had comments to make. So that's what you were watching, the first Commissioner's Court since his announcement that he was going to appeal.
Greg.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Commissioner Simmons. In reading one of the reports about what we were just viewing in terms of the meeting, I read that Crystal Brown, a Florence Hill resident, said that she wanted to thank Mr. O'Hare for waking the sleeping Black Panther of Tarrant County. I'm wondering if you see this as perhaps a galvanizing moment, and forgive me if I have this incorrect, but last month, did this punk O'Hare, this Faith, Family, and Freedom punk, the judge, did he tell you you'll sit there and be quiet? I'm just trying to. I mean, these guys are talking with impunity. Could this be a moment to spark Black people to finally get together in what appears to be a county of over 2 million people, majority non-white, at least if it's 44%, I understand white, although there's some white Hispanics as well. You know, could this be a flashpoint moment with these guys just talking so crazy, telling you to be quiet, telling apparently law enforcement to be prepared to remove people from the building if they look like they're going to be disruptive? Who the hell do they think they're talking to, Commissioner? And could this be a moment to kind of get our people fired?
Sir, yes. So our last meeting, I questioned a contract that he had on the agenda to hire a Republican political consultant to work in his office. Well, we don't use county tax dollars to pay Republican or Democratic political consultants to work for us, you know. And so I questioned his contract. Commissioner Brooks, the brother you see, questioned the contract, really went hard on him. And the public speakers did. And so I went last and I said, well, I agree with Commissioner Brooks. And he lit into me and tried to question me about his contracts. Well, you have staff that are posting political stuff on I said, we're not talking about my social media. We're talking about your contract. And he tried to ask me questions. I said, oh, okay, I'll answer one of his questions. In the process, he said, you be quiet. You sit there and listen to me until I'm finished. Wow. And so you got to see the video. And we're
going to find that video.
I cuss really. I'm not the I cuss. Don't let how I cuss really bad. But I didn't. And I just simply said, who are you? You cannot tell me when and when not to speak. And so that was the thing that caught everybody's attention. And so a lot of local organizations, white, Black, purple, Hispanic, faith-based, not the Divine Nine, planned direct action, and Tuesday, they came to court. And because I knew that they were planning it, I was not in on the planning, I decided I'm going to agendize Crystal Mason. And I was quite alarmed because we will have a lot of people there. I was hearing a lot of people were coming, so I decided let's agendize Crystal Mason so the people aren't there at a commissioner's court meeting bored listening to us talk about contracts for HVAC.
Yep.
I agendized Crystal Mason. I agendized the jail deaths. We have a proliferation of jail deaths. We had 2 in a matter of 4 days. The last one was after an altercation, and so I agendized the sheriff to come give us an update on that. I agendized the DA to come give us a briefing on the Crystal Mason case. The sheriff refused to come, and anyway, they got wind that there was going to be a crowd there, and we had historic attendance. They had to do 2 overflows. My staff came and got me from the parking garage because now I have to have some personal protection when I'm downtown. And we walked up to the building and I said, what on earth is all of this response? There were sheriff's units around the building. There were 40 sheriff's deputies teaming all throughout the small administration building. They were everywhere. Just disrespectful, because you anticipate Black people are coming to their commissioner's court, just like the White House, that's the people's house, commissioner's court's people's house. And so it was a galvanizing moment. So there were people there talking about the disrespect to Simmons, Commissioner Simmons, Crystal Mason, and the jail deaths. And so it was overflow. We had pastors and bishops, and it's just so many people. And the good thing about it is they were amazed. There were 2 mega church pastors sitting in my office after a break, and I went to speak to them, and they said, I'm sorry. We had no idea this is what Commissioner's Court deals with. I said, oh, how long have you been sitting here? They'd been there since 10 o'clock and watched that man talk rudely. He didn't want the people to speak. They couldn't sign. They couldn't clap. They couldn't. And understand, in Texas, all 254 counties, they have a 5-member commissioner's court.
Right.
The county judge has no more authority than the 4 commissioners. He presides the meetings. He can declare an emergency without the commissioner.
Right.
Like a burn ban. If it's, summertime and the grass is dry, he can do that. Other than that, he has no more authority than I do. He has no more influence. He has no more influence over the budget. But the power this man has is he's got 3 votes.
Right. It's the same. Look, in Harris County, Democrats now control the county commissioner's court, which is why they've been trying to take out Lena Hidalgo. And so because that's the case now, they broke that Republican grip. Republicans used to control the Dallas County Commissioner's Court. Now Democrats control that as well. And that's really what's ticking off all these MAGA Republicans. That Democrats control Dallas County, they control Harris County, they control Bexar County, they control Travis County. And so Tarrant County is really the last large county in Texas that Republicans have control over. Well, you could go ahead. So you could go ahead and tell the sheriff's department that they're gonna need to do that again. I've already sent a text message to a variety of folk. We plan on coming down to Fort Worth to also have a larger rally, and so I've been talking to Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes, who's there in Dallas. And so we'll be communicating with you, getting information on the next commissioners meeting when we plan this action, because this is not just Crystal Mason. It's what they did to the brother in Harris County who stood in line for 6 hours. They scared that brother to death so bad. He says, I'm not going to vote in the election again. We saw what happened in Florida when Ron DeSantis sicked his dogs on formerly incarcerated folk, arrested them. All the charges were thrown out. But they were trying to, again, keep those formerly incarcerated folks from casting ballots. This is what MAGA Republicans are doing across the country. And so the amount of resources to targeting this one woman is offensive. And that's why I say Phil Sorrells is terrorizing Crystal Mason. Right. There's no other way to look at this here. This is one case, 8 years old. This man is spending more time going after this one woman who cast a provisional ballot than they do fighting other serious crime in the county, and it's shameful. And what this is trying to create a chilling effect to tell black folks in Tarrant County, we're going to do the same thing to you. And so this is why black folks in Tarrant County and Fort Worth have got to rise up and vote their numbers in these elections, because these people can be beat, but they have the power because we also don't turn out in maximizing our numbers.
We have more registered Democrats in Tarrant County than Republicans.
Well,
it's a turnout game.
Yep.
These people got to turn out. They can't call me.
Yep. Mad and upset. Yeah.
Right, and I was the NAACP president in Arlington for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've told people, don't stop calling me. And now I've gotten elected. And I had more authority, more power, more influence as NAACP president than I have.
Right. You were the chapter president when I spoke there?
Yes, that was me.
Yes. All right, yeah. Absolutely. Well, listen, we're coming. And so they better add some more sheriff folk because the number of folk we're going to have out there is going to be much larger than what they saw this past week. And the pressure has to stay on them. Absolutely, I would put Crystal Mason on the agenda at every commissioner's meeting. And that way he got to haul his behind there and face the people and not hide behind closed doors.
Yes, sir. Thank you for hearing from me. This has been therapeutic. It is insane.
Yep.
What's happening here.
All right. Tell Roy Brooks I'm calling him next to have him on the show as well. So I saw him a couple of weeks ago. So tell him I'm hitting him up.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
And I want to say thank you to everybody that came out. It was amazing. It's a lonely proposition up there. I'm just telling you.
Yep.
And for the turnout, overflow, seeing people everywhere was amazing.
All right, then.
Thank you.
Won't be the last time you're on. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.